I'm Dom Johnson. I am a writer and ranker for Dynasty Nerds. Also host a podcast called the Fantasy Blitz podcast. Both of those things are plugged up at the top of the AMA chat. So you have all of my articles I've written for Dynasty Nerds. One of them is a series called Commissioner's Playbook. So I'm going through. I've done the first two plays already. I'm just going through trying to make creative ideas for commissioners. Um, and so I did one about draft ideas and did the other one about just improving your league. And so those two are both up. Fantasy Blitz podcast, we do a series called War Room. So we bring in two fantasy analysts from Twitter, and we give them a player, usually a rookie, is what these first two have been, and give them about a week to prepare an argument, like a debate, and we facilitate a debate, and it's been a lot of fun. We've done Zach Moss and Henry Ruggs so far. We're trying to plan to get Garrett Price, one of the nerds that's on the Dynasty Nerds podcast, and then um, Michael Risher, if you know who that is. He's one of the founders of the FF astronauts, fantasy football astronauts, to come on and debate Michael Pittman. So that one's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited about that. But one of the big things that you're going to hear a good bit about tonight, and also there's going to be a giveaway tonight for this. This is the Dynasty GM Tool. So if you're on Twitter at all, or you have been listening to anything that I've said, most of what I've talked about recently is this tool. So it is basically a league manager for you, so you can put in all of your sleeper and MFL teams into this. Get a league analysis, which teams have the most value in particular positions, including obviously your team. There's a trade calculator as well as trade suggestions within that calculator. You can do a build your own trade, obviously, if you wanted to. And all of those are, it compounds. And so the rankings and the values will change as the nerds redo their rankings. So it's based off of the Dynasty Nerds rankings. I was talking to Zach earlier about getting a Dynasty Nerds channel in here on the server. We're going to get some more of our Dynasty Nerds writers and rankers to get in here, and that way you can ask if you have any questions that you want some expert advice on. We will be in there, and you can ask us in there and get like a conglomeration of all of our opinions. That way you can make the most informed expert, again, opinion yourself. So all that to be said, oh yeah, basically the giveaway is if you who I'm gonna pick my favorite question from the night, so get them in, just not too hard of questions for me to answer, and I'll pick my favorite one, and we will give away a Dynasty GM um, tool, a coupon code for that, so you can get it for free for the year. Um, There'll probably be another giveaway soon. Got to talk to the guys, make sure that I'm cleared to give another one away. So we're super excited to have that ready. They've been working on that for like 5 months. So without further ado, and so I don't waste any more time with uh, anything else, we're going to jump right in. Got my show notes. So we're just going to start at the top and we'll go down. I'm going to try and go quickly. If you have any questions, obviously put them in there, and I'll try to hit those as well about any particular questions. So first, we're going to start with Sam Wise. I've seen a bunch of Sam Wises. I'm going to need someone to explain that joke to me later, but I'm assuming it's a joke. But he asks if there's about a certain strategy when it comes to Devi and Campus to Canton leagues, trying to spread out picks among classes, or just take the best prospects available. So to start with that, I'm gonna put that down. This actually is my first year doing a Devian in Campus to Canton leagues. I'm in one of each, and I've enjoyed it a lot. I did a lot of research into our Devi team. I use a lot of our Dynasty Nerds Devi rankings. We don't have a Campus to Canton rankings yet. I'm not sure that it's really that different from Devi, other than it's just far deeper. So for Devi, usually I would focus on running back prospects more, just because they have a shorter shelf life. They have a more immediate impact in the NFL, and you can also turn those around much quicker for value. So obviously, and I'll get to hit rates in just a second. Wide receivers historically just they take a couple years to really hit and make it in the NFL, and really start to produce. So I have some stats about hit rates that I want to talk about. So using fantasy ADP from 2007 on rookie drafts only. So basically the top 12 ADP fantasy rookies since 2007. Added them all up, and we talked about hit rates. So, for running backs, of all those running backs since 2007, 32.4% of them have a top 24 performance in their first season, 35 in their second, 39% in their sixth, 37 in their fourth, and 25 in their fifth. So it's pretty even. They usually, the ones that are on top stay on top. You can probably, can't say that's what she said, so I'll say it for you. And then top 36 performances. Let's talk about those. First season for running backs, 44.5% in the first season are top 36, 46% in the second season, 44% in the third season, 53 in the fourth, and 33 in the fifth. So running backs hit hard quick, and then die out by their fifth season. So usually you're going to want to sell running backs for peak value in their fifth. So again, they will hit the NFL harder, more at the beginning, and have more immediate production. You have like I said, a 32.4% chance, roughly, of your first round pick running back producing a top 24 performance. Now let's talk about wide receivers. Same thing, but with wide receivers in the first round by fantasy ADP for rookies. In their first season, only 21% hit in have a top 24 performance. In their second season, it's 39. Third season is 31. Fourth season is 27. Fifth season is 32. So a second year breakout, third year breakout is real. You do need to give wide receivers more than 1 year in the NFL to really see if they've got what it takes. There's a 19-point difference from first season to second season in wide receivers, but only a 3% difference between first and second season top 24 performers for running backs. So all that to say, in Devy, I'm going to target running backs more, just because they're going to flash in the pan a little harder, and I can sell them at peak value without having to wait so long. And so I can turn them into more Devy picks if I'd like, or just use them for, to keep winning over and over again. So for Campus to Canton, I do want to mention, so what I did this past time, because, and this kind of goes for both, I try to balance between my positional needs between the leagues, between NFL and NCAA. So for instance, in this past Campus to Canton league, we, after we did the NFL draft, I had some pretty severe quarterback and running back needs. I only had Dalvin Cook, and then I had Damian Williams, but he opted out. So now I have Rex Burkhead starting in my running back slot, because the draft was just going quarterback heavy, and so I was really trying to zig when others zagged, and took a ton of wide receivers. So I have, according to Dynasty GM, I have the number one set of receivers in this league. So in my NCAA drafts, and for quarterbacks, I think my quarterbacks are Tom Brady and someone else that's not good. So definitely need a quarterbacks, definitely need a running backs. So my first 2 rounds in my NCAA draft, I got Travis Etienne in the 104. Came back around. It's 14 team, by the way. Got Brock Purdy, just best QB available. Then I punted quarterback because you can take small school quarterbacks that put up a ton. So basically, for Campus Canton, take best player available, the ones that really you think are going to actually make it to the NFL, just to double your draft stock, and then just take some small school producers, the ones that are going to get the numbers, but not necessarily the NFL draft stock after that. So that's yeah. That's that question. Started in fantasy writing / podcasting. Honestly, what got me started with fantasy writing was I was bored. My wife and I moved to Huntsville, um, last April, and I didn't have a job at the time. We came for her school, and I was just like we were in the summer. I was waiting for my senior year of college to start, and I was just bored. So I got on Twitter, re-downloaded Twitter, and found a bunch of guys. Wrote a fantasy piece to what's it called? Um, like apply for the fantasy. They gave me a chance my first year, and then Dynasty went to Dynasty Nerds, and they picked me up, and like I'm a free agent or something, and it's been great. I've loved it. And then podcast came out of quarantine boredom. But again, it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. I've been wanting to do a podcast for a while, but really haven't had the time. But now since I've graduated college and am at home with newborn, grant 6 months, so a new kid, I have the time now. So that's kind of where podcasting came from. Okay, let's get on to some dynasty football questions. Tara asked, "How do you feel about Hooper?" By the way, happy birthday. Yesterday I think it was, or maybe it's today. I don't remember. One of these past 2 days. Um, how do you feel about Hooper? Obviously, the situation doesn't look friendly, but the contract seems too big to ignore. So let's talk about Hooper for a second. Contract, a 4-year, $44 million contract. 23 of that is guaranteed. Let's talk about the Browns. In 2019, the Browns only had 70 tight end targets. Part of that is because Njoku was hurt after like the second game. And then you had, Ricky Seals-Jones and Demetrius Harris, subbing in. So you're not going to give them targets when you have OBJ and Jarvis Landry. The Vikings, though, had 106 tight end targets. And that was good for 23% of their target share. While the Browns' 70 targets were only 13% of the target share. So the Browns scheme is going to change a good bit with Stefanski coming in. Let me scroll down, make sure I'm not missing any questions or updates. The Browns scheme is going to change a good bit with Stefanski coming in. They're going to run a 1-2 package pretty often, which means I feel like they're going to run a 1-2. They could honestly run a 2-2 pretty often because they are going to try to keep Njoku. Njoku put out a trade request just recently, took it back. Said he's going to really try to give the Browns his all. I don't know why, but he's there. Austin Hooper's there. Paid $1 bucks. They're going to want both on the field. They have two great receivers, Jarvis Landry, OBJ. Do ever since college. Go Tigers. And then you have two great backs. You got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. You're going to want both of them on the field. So what does that leave? You have either a 1-2 package or 2-2, 2-1, something like that. You're going to want to have at least either both of the tight ends or both of the backs in on the field. So with the way that the Browns are going to throw less with Stefanski in their run scheme, Nick Chubb's going to get a ton of work. Kareem Hunt is going to take some of the passing away as well from the middle of the field and some of the short targets. That means that Hooper, his ADP right now is tight end 13. I feel like that's pretty adequate. I'm not going to draft him in the top 12. I don't think. I think there's 12 guys that I would rather have than Austin Hooper that just seem a little safer. If Austin Hooper would have stayed in Atlanta, absolutely, I'll give you the top 6 conversation. We can have that conversation. But in just the same way that Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph played it like ate into each other's workload, they just limited each other's ceilings, and I feel like that's really what's Njoku and Hooper are going to do. They're just going to limit each other's ceilings more than they are hurt each other's floor, if that makes sense. So, maybe it won't be quite as evenly split as Rudolph and Irv was last year. Maybe Hooper edges out a little more, but it's not going to be a very high ceiling. All right. Keep going. Let's keep going. Let's go faster. I feel like I'm rambling. Okay. Favorite metric to work with when making start sit decisions and draft picks. So for start sit, I actually did some start sits last year for Dynasty Nerd, or not Dynasty Nerds, I'm sorry, Fantasy Football Astronauts. My claim to fame was that I did say to start Tony Pollard 1 week when Zeke was back, and he went off for like 27 points. And so if I've done nothing else for the fantasy community, I've done that. So what I use usually is obviously opposing defenses. That's usually the first thing I look at. Target competition. So I look at, who else is in the room. Game script. Are they going to be up really big and run a lot? Or are they going to be in a shootout and throw a whole bunch? And then also I'll just use trends from the previous 2 weeks as far as market share and other things like that. Sorry, I keep looking at myself here, and it looks like I'm looking away from you, but sorry. Goodness, the people who are listening to this later are going to be like, "What are you talking about?" For ranks, I look at previous production. I like wide receivers and guys who get a bunch of targets. So I am a target hog type of guy. So DJ Moore is my love. Look at target competition, and then I just kind of tweak based off of my gut as far as value increase predictions. So guys I think whose value is going to go up in at least a year. I try not to make ranks for more than 2 years max. Most of them I'll do like for 1 year, like who I think is going to, like, for instance, I've got Julio as my wide receiver 4 this year in my Dynasty Nerds rankings. And that is the of all of the rankers, I'm the highest on him. A lot of people are, pushing him down just a little bit because of some young bucks and his age. We'll get to that later. But I've got him up just because I only look 2 years down the road in Dynasty. If you're not trying to win now, you're not doing Dynasty right. I guess unless you're rebuilding. You're one of the two. All right. Draft, I am addicted to the ADP game. It's a curse. I've lost a lot of good, like, value because I'm trying to get value, and so I'll lose the guys that I really want because I feel like I can get them around later. So I'm addicted to the ADP game, but I do look at targets game again. The minimal competitions, the guys who have backfields to themselves. So I might take David Montgomery over when some other people won't, just because I want a guy who has the backfield basically all to himself. Also, I'm going to look at offensive scheme. I just sold Justin Jefferson in a league just because I'm not a fan of the Vikings offensive scheme as far as passing. And maybe I did that wrong, but I'm going to stay away from guys who, for instance, I'm going to stay away from Ravens receivers. I'm going to stay away from Titans receivers, even if it's great value. I don't like those receivers in like those offensive schemes. So I'm just not going to draft those receivers at all. Awesome. Personal take on some players. Allen Robinson, supreme talent. I'm just going to read this off just to go faster. Not a bad situation, but an unknown one just because of the quarterback stuff. Third in targets in 2019 with 150 something. Should be top 10 in targets in 2020. Volume equals king. His ADP, though, is 311, wide receiver 12. If he drops in the fourth, I don't mind taking a shot on him. He had 11.7 yards per reception in 2019, which was his lowest since 2014. So he does have some positive regression coming for yards per reception as per his usual. And I guess, his targets and touchdowns should stay the same. They weren't super high. It was only his highest target year by like 5. I think he had 159 this year, and I think he had 154 in his breakout year in Jacksonville with Bortles. So I could see him getting another 150 targets, another 7, 8, 9 touchdowns. And if his yards per reception goes up, I could easily see him as a top 10 wide receiver. So I'm totally good with having Allen Robinson as my wide receiver 2 in the 4th round, if he can fall there. Johnny Smith, ADP of 1206, tied in 17 off the board. Honestly, I'd love to take a chance on Johnny Smith, but in every draft I've been in this year, he goes way before I want to reach on him. He's an insane athlete. He has 93rd percentile spark score. He is a super high dominator and a low breakout age. From week 7 on, though, let's talk about Titans pass catchers. From week 7 on, which is, I think that's when, what's his face, Tannehill took over. He averaged averaged. No, I'm sorry, that's when Delaney Walker went down, and so he kind of took the starting role with Ferkser, uh, speech impediments. He averaged 3.6 targets a game, 2.9 receptions, and 0.3 touchdowns. So he only had 3 touchdowns on the year for the last 10 games. Like I said, love the player, hate his offense. When Delaney produced in Tennessee, he didn't have AJ Brown. So I want him. I want him just because he is incredibly talented and ridiculously shredded. But I don't think I'm able to get him just because of where everyone else has him, and I don't like his offense. Keep going. Irv Smith. I enjoyed watching him play in college. Hey, went to Bama for 3 years. In case you didn't know, he did play over 600 offensive snaps in 2019. That is interesting. Will be used in the Vikings 12 personnel, which they run often with Rudolph. His again, like we talked about earlier, his ceiling is capped because of Rudolph there, and he has a ridiculous contract. He's not getting out of anytime soon. Yeah, barring a Rudolph injury, Irv Smith, you're not going to want to start him. Mostert versus Coleman. By McKinnon. No, I'm just kidding. With a new contract for Raheem Mostert, I feel way more comfortable with him. Obviously, ADP of 603, RB28. Totally fine getting him there. If that were the case, though, I would be looking with the last couple of rounds of the draft to handcuff him with Jarek or JaMychal Hasty or Salvon Ahmed, or just someone else in that backfield. You're going to want to get a piece of that backfield as much as you can. So if you buy one, buy two, buy the expensive and the cheap one, just in case. So Miles Sanders, great athleticism. He was insane athlete. He's got awful vision. He runs like okay, so he's basically blind as a bat. But and so because of that, because of his poor vision, I was off of him in 2019. I wasn't going to draft him at his price and rookie drafts. But what I found out was when you play for the Eagles, you don't have to have good vision. You just have to be able to run in a straight line, which Miles Sanders can sometimes do. So yeah, I'm fine with buying Miles Sanders. He's going to get the workload. He's going to get the targets even. You know, I'll buy Boston Scott too later, but I'm not scared of Boston Scott cutting into his workload. Wouldn't be scared of Lamar Miller. Wouldn't be scared of really any other veteran signing that they can do. They did miss out on Carlos Hyde, so thank goodness. Boston Scott's ADP 1305, RB59. Turned it on last 4 games. Sanders still played for 3 of those games, and Boston Scott still had 38 rushes for 151 yards. That's 4 yards per carry and 4 touchdowns. And then he had 25 targets, caught 23 of those for just under 200 yards. So Boston Scott can explode for weeks, kind of like a Tony Pollard role. Basically just waiting on a Miles Sanders injury to really explode. I will say though, if Miles Sanders goes down, I would sell Boston Scott. It's the next week if he goes off, just because I don't think they're going to be comfortable with just Boston Scott. But I digress. Okay, CEH Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm okay. So where does he rank with the Damian Williams opt out? I am going to put him somewhere in between RB 8 and 10. I actually just had a conversation with a guy on Twitter about this the other day. I think he has all the potential. I think he's in one of the best situations. Obviously, you can even imagine. That was even before the opt out, the Damian Williams opt out. Even now, it's gotten even better. So you really can't. Yeah, it's great. So he's got to prove it to me before I really move him up above some guys like Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon. He's got to prove it to me that he can take this opportunity and do well with it. He's got to prove to me that he's actually Kareem Hunt light or just Kareem Hunt clone. before I can really move him above RB8. And even then, I think that's generously high for a rookie running back that's not named Saquon Barkley. So he's got okay measurables. He's not a burner. He's not going to hurt you in the long game. He can navigate traffic really well. He's got great hands. And actually just saw a tweet yesterday. The past 2 years, Kansas City has targeted their running backs 168 times, while Phillip Rivers has targeted his 312. I'm not really sure if that was supposed to be a fade Clyde or a buy Naeem Hines / Jonathan Taylor. But all that to say, unless they kind of change their DNA and target the running back more, I can only see Clyde getting like 60 targets, which, is still serviceable, but I see him as a low RB1 for this year. So 8 to 10 is where I have him. He's going to prove it before I move him up. He's in the same tier as Eckler, Jacobs, and Drake for me. XFL, AAF players, no. Only ones come to mind are Trent Richardson, PJ Walker, Luis Perez, and Zach Mettenberger. Very doubtful that any of them are actually going to get any sort of chance. By the way, if my mic is peaking or something, let me know. So I can turn the game down. Sweet. What's next? Stacks for this year. Let's talk about stacks. Normally, I'm not a big stacks guy, especially ones like the ones that you have to pay up for both of them. So Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. What's his face? Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. I'm probably not going to pay up for both of them, just because those are both guys you're gonna have to take in the first 5 rounds. So of those 3, I'll take Drew Brees and Michael Thomas, just because I can get Drew Brees in the 8th, 9th round and not have to really spend 2 of those draft, like, high draft capitals up. Did I explain why? Dun, dun, dun. Oh yeah, especially this is key. This is actually advice. So for this season, especially for this season, I strongly advise you to diversify your fantasy assets. You're going to want to have a guy. You're not going to want to stack this year, because if one guy gets COVID, they all get quarantined. I'll get to that in a second too. But what was I saying? Yes, COVID. If one gets COVID, they're all going to quarantine. They're like, games might be canceled because a team gets an outbreak of COVID. And if you have 3 players on the same team, if you have Cup, Woods, and Goff, or Cup, Akers, and Goff, whatever, all 3 of them are out. So I strongly urge you, diversify your fantasy team. Don't sacrifice value in Dynasty, but for your redraft, diversify. Just to jump down there, this is my Jordan Howard jersey from like 4 years ago. Jordan Howard's my boy. We went to the same high school. He was a year ahead of me, so I got to see him in high school, and he was a monster truck. The dude, I seriously, not a single time did I see one person take him down by themselves. It was a team effort to stop Jordan Howard. We still sucked. Go Rockets. But Jordan Howard was a lot of fun to watch. And actually, tuba, I was playing the tuba in the marching band when I saw him. So, small plug. That's done. Next one, I'm gonna try to speed through. Oh, I caught up a little bit. Yeah, marching band, Roll Tide. Let's see, where are we at? DK versus Lockett. In redraft specifically. So I'll talk about redraft and not Dynasty. Currently, I only use ESPN ADP for just for this question or for any redraft questions, just because you're not going to get redraft ADP on Sleeper. So currently, ESPN ADP, Lockett's at 503 at wide receiver 17. DK Metcalf is 512 at wide receiver 22. And honestly, that's pretty close to where I would feel comfortable taking either of them. I do have a slight injury. I feel no one's really talking about DK Metcalf's injury concern for this year, so I'm slightly worried about it, just because he played his whole college career He has a full season now, his first NFL season, fully healthy. That was great. Good for him. He proved me wrong. I wasn't in on DK. I was one of the 3-cone guys. I hate to admit it, but I saw his 3-cone. I saw some of his routes in training camp that took 11 steps for him to stop, and I said, nope, don't want him. So I ended up getting him later that year. Don't call me a hypocrite. All that to say, I think I would go Lockett there. They both got 100 targets last year. They're probably both going to get 100 targets again, unless DK Metcalf goes down. So he has the injury concern that I'm a little worried about. So that's why I'm leaning Lockett. It's kind of splitting hairs here. Steven Sims breakout. Is he poised for one? I don't know. Yeah, why not? He had 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Plus, if your league does kick return yards, kick return points, he's a good stat. He's someone good to flex. He had 800 kick return yards last year. So he's definitely someone to look at in that case. So for Washington football team, that Z wide receiver spot is pretty wide open. You got Trent Taylor there, kind of pushing for that Z wide receiver. Antonio Gandy-Golden is probably gonna wait, did I say Z? Slot. The Z is wide open. That's where Antonio Gandy-Golden's going. Sims is probably gonna end up in the Y. He's gonna go with the slot. He was in the slot 72.8% of the time in 2019. Sims was. But I do have to say, just to advocate that, devil's advocate that. Is that how you? I don't know. Sims is an undrafted free agent, so there's not really a big contract, so there's no real loyalty or leverage for him to get any playing time. Plus, I want to talk about Antonio Gibson. The dude's redonkulous. Antonio Gibson was one of my sleeper rookies for this year. Loved him coming in, and yeah, so I think if Guy stays healthy and he kind of wins that backfield, and that is a crowded backfield, they're going to want to get Antonio Gibson on the field somehow. The dude's electric. They're going to want to do something with him. So that might mean he takes some of those slot routes away from Steven Sims. All that to say, I don't know. Why not? Define breakout, if you mean he's going to stay on a pace of those last 3 games, no, it's not going to happen. But is he probably a pretty good value? Yeah, I think so, probably. Hope that didn't answer your question. Okay, James Washington versus Deontay Johnson. So Deontay Johnson, let's talk about ADP for a second because it's not close. You're right. You mentioned that earlier. They should be ranked much closer together. Samwise said that. One of the Samwises. So Deontay Johnson's ADP is 905, wide receiver 48. James Washington's ADP is 1404, wide receiver 70. That's crazy. But let's talk about those players. They are in 2 completely different roles. Deontay Johnson really kind of fits in eerily similarly to Antonio Brown, as far as, and all right, I'm not calling them the same thing, but they have the same profile. They have some similar stats. There is a tweet somewhere from a couple months ago that has their stats side by side, and it was pretty close. He's a great route runner. And James Washington is more of the downfield threat. He's the field stretcher. He's a contested catch guy. So, at that price though, I'm going to take James Washington here. I think Deontay Johnson's he was the best last year. He kind of got the Juju the same way that Juju got the Antonio Brown bonus. Deontay Johnson got the Juju bonus to where he was getting the second cornerback covering him, and he had a whole bunch of separation. Not that really means anything. Thank you, Dante Pettis, for proving that. So for this year, especially with Big Ben coming back, He looks healthy. He looks slim. We'll see about the elbow. Can only see so much from looking at an elbow, but I do want a part of this offense. And at the price, I'm going to take James Washington in the 14th round at wide receiver 70. He could very easily return hugely, like a huge dividend for this offense. Um, you know, Big Ben is a 600 throw guy. Like almost every year in, year out, he just throws the ball. So I don't see that really changing. He's one of the guys I feel like quarterbacks that he's just going to pedal to the metal until he breaks down. Last year was kind of the first sign of that happening. So decent chance that Big Ben goes down again this year. But until he breaks down, he's going to keep going. He's not going to slow down. It's going to be a screaming halt. Therefore, lots of pass attempts. By the way, this is Dwayne Wade, not Kanye West. No one asked, but I saw it and I feel like I had to explain. James Washington. What are you talking about? Herndon Breakout. Who is that? I haven't seen him in like 2 years, so someone probably needs to check on Chris Herndon. He had an impressive rookie year, but in 2019 he was only limited to only 18 snaps. Ryan Griffin, not really a threat to his role, but Chris Herndon's not really an athletic freak. He's okay. He's not oversized by any means. There are definitely bigger tight ends. He had the one thing though that I'm looking back at 2018, Chris Herndon. One thing I liked about him was that his slot percentage was 23.6% in 2018. But for the Jets, that was before Jamison Crowder was there. And if we know anything about Jamison Crowder, it's that he will only line up in the slot. Otherwise, he's going to be just like he's going to blend into the grass on the field, especially with that green Jets jersey. So Jamison Crowder is going to take almost all of those slot routes and slot snaps. So Chris Herndon is probably going to be lining up on the line for all of his routes and his targets and stuff. So if you are asking if Chris Herndon is a breakout, meaning a top 24, probably. Why not? It's got to be someone. So why not Chris Herndon? He's back. He's shown some promise. If you're talking about a breakout like a top 15, no, I don't think so. No. Okay, Adam Gase. Say any more? Indianapolis wide receiver core. We talked about this the other night, Zach. So fun stats. Phillip Rivers, number in 2019, mind you, number 5 in red zone attempts, number 6 in deep ball attempts, number 3 in pass attempt distance. But he was number 28th in number 28, not 28th, in red zone completion percentage. The number 27 in deep ball completion percentage. So he went deep often, but not well. Therefore, altogether, what this means, the receiver I want on this team, especially at the price, is Paris Campbell. His athleticism is unreal. He had an insane combine, super quick dude, very fast, great burst, super quick again. And his only slot competition really from last year was Chester Rogers. And of all of those mediocre to bad wide receivers in that room, Deontay, Zach Pascal, Chester Rogers, the one that I am least concerned about, Chester Rogers. So according to StatBot, which when it actually works for me, I found this out. 84 of Keenan Allen's 115 targets were considered short, which is right where Paris Campbell will be. So yeah, at price, give me Paris Campbell. Next, I probably am going to want Michael Pittman. Just watching Pittman's tape. Yes, Pittman. Pittman's tape. He has some ridiculous catches, just absolutely outstanding, spectacular. He's an athlete, 100%. So I see him fitting in more. If he's gonna hurt someone's snaps or targets, T.Y. Hilton more than it is Paris Campbell. And so, yeah, I think honestly, I do think Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman could both be fantasy relevant because if Phillip Rivers does have a top 10 deep ball attempts, Michael Pittman can go up and get them. He has spectacular catches just like Mike Williams does. So not, yeah. So I think Pittman is going to be the second guy I want, especially at price. And honestly, before I take T.Y. Hilton at his price, though it is going lower and lower, it's probably Nyheim Hines. I mentioned that stat earlier. Phillip Rivers targeted running backs 312 times for the past 2 seasons. Incredibly low price for Nyheim Hines. I don't have that on me. I didn't write that down. I'm sorry, but it's low. Okay, where are we next? Is this 6? This is 7. I think we're on Julio. Someone asked about Julio. Go buy Julio. Please go buy Julio. Do yourself a favor. Do me a favor. Go put Julio on your team. He plays through injuries. He's unfreaking guardable. He's Atlanta is first in pass attempts. They threw 670 something times last year. Their offense was the 5th best in 2019. He's only 31. I'm not really scared of retirement / drop off anytime in the next 3 years, which is the next 3 years he's under contract. So the one inclusion is if he pulls Calvin Johnson. Obviously, no one can predict that. No one predicted Calvin Johnson to do that either. But barring that random inclusion of being Andrew Luck, Julio Jones is going to keep reducing. He's going to keep playing. He's got at least 3 great years left in him. So for the value that you're going to get for him right now, I would much rather have 3 years of his elite wide receiver 1 production than to get DK Metcalf for him. Go buy Julio. That's all I have to say. In Dynasty, one of the big things that Rich always says is, hashtag 3-year window. I'm taking it down. I don't want to look any more than 2 years. 3 years is if I am in a full tear down to the bones rebuild. Most of the time though, if I don't think I'm a contender, I'm gonna do a 1-year reload is what I'll call it. So I'm not going to tear it down. I'm going to look at guys who I can just kind of sell the guys that aren't going to be great next year and look for guys that are going to go into better situations next year. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. I think I have some guys, a list like that. Sorry, words. Okay. Gesicki is a tight end starter. Great question. Can I help you feel better about it? Probably not. In our very first episode of Fantasy Blitz, I did talk about Mike Gesicki. I'm a big fan of him. I got him in most of my leagues. His ADP right now is 806, tight end 12 off the board. He finished as tight end 11 last year, if I believe. He had 89 targets for 51 catches at 57% catch rate, which is not great, for 570 yards and 5 touchdowns. So let's talk about what happened. A lot of people blame the Preston Williams injury for Mike Gesicki getting more targets, but actually it lines up perfectly with Ryan Fitzpatrick taking over for Josh Rosen full time. That's when Gesicki really started to come into his own right. So, in 11 quarters that Josh Rosen started, he only targeted Mike Gesicki 9 times. In that Week 6 game, when Fitz took over in the 4th quarter, he targeted him 3 times in that quarter alone. And from then on, from Week 7 on, Gesicki received 71 targets, which is about 6.5 per game from Fitz. So if Fitz starts all of 2020, then Gesicki should see, and this is what I'm projecting him to see in my projections, over 100 targets, even maybe just barely, about 65 receptions, and at least 6 touchdowns. In my projections, he is the tight end 10, so he's going to be close to what he did last year. Josh, okay, that's a new question. Cheap QB3, Teddy Bridgewater, Big Ben, and Cam Newton. Okay, moving on. Favorite sleeper tight end, define sleeper. If we're going to talk about, and granted, his price is probably going up right now, but I'm a really big fan of Hurst. I think the guy who posted that said that. No, he didn't. But I'm a big fan of Hurst. I like his potential, and I may have been coach speak, or player speak, but Matt Ryan really talked him up. He was a second round pick. Jarwin, he's in here. Favorite sleeper tight end. So Hurst was the first one. Goddard's the second one. Again, if I'm doing a reload, Goddard's got someone I'm targeting. 29 is not that old, but he's great, and he's going to continue to be great. If he can produce with Zach Ertz on the team and still be a top 12 tight end, think about what he's going to do when Zach Ertz either moves or retires. Goddard's going to be great. Jarwin's the next one. At price, I'm going to take Jarwin. Deep sleeper, though, we're going to talk about deep sleeper tight end, is probably either Eric Ebron, ADP 1108, tight end 19, or Gerald Everett, ADP 1408, tight end 27. Both of those guys, I think, are being forgotten because there's so many narratives right now. This tight end's going to break out. That tight end's going to break out. Wendell Smallwood, no. Ian Thomas, no. Same thing from last year. He got hyped up a lot last year. No, probably not. There's a lot of tight ends I'm going to want over Ian Thomas. Sure, he's got some potential. A lot of other guys have a lot more potential. Ian Thomas is on none of my teams. What goes into projections? Oh, my projections spreadsheet right now. I can hand if you want it. DM me afterwards, and I will, or I'll post a link in here or something. I don't know. And it's basically a weighted average of the past 3 seasons. So, for instance, my 2020 projections are going to have 2017, 18, 19 stats. 17 is 20%. And 2019 is 50% of the projections, of the weight of the projections, and then I kind of tweak it based off of team tendencies, head coach, player changes, stuff like that. Because obviously, you can look at the past 3 years of Patriots team tendencies and get a quarterback number, but Cam Newton is not Tom Brady. They're not the same player. So actually, right now, I'm working on with the analytics guy from Dynasty Nerds, and we're going to hopefully soon make a team tendencies / head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator tool that creates baseline projections based off of those things, off those variables. So hopefully that'll come eventually. There's a lot of other bigger things in the pipeline, but that's something we are going to work on. Crowded backfields. Baltimore. Dobbins is in the Gus's role. He's going to receive a little more receiving work than Gus did. He's in Ingram's role some in 2020, but Ingram has a potential out in 2021 and is completely out as an unrestricted free agent in 2022. So Dobbins is the long-term answer there, I believe. Go buy Dobbins for what you can right now. His price is going to go up for sure. Tampa Bay, who knows? Shady comes in and ruins everything, just like he did last year. Rip Darwin Thompson. If I had to guess, though, Rojo, I don't know, Spanish man, still gets first crack. Shady eats more into Dari Ogunbowale's work. I just wanted to impress you with saying Ogunbowale. Vaughn is used sparingly, waiting to jump in as soon as Rojo misses another block assignment, and it gets pulled because what's his face, the coach, the hat guy, he lives in the Stone Age. All that to say, I don't know. That's Akers' job in Los Angeles for the Rams. They had a choice. Okay, here's my take. The Rams had a choice. They could either spend big bucks, years of draft capital, and trading to fix their offensive line, or they could draft the best running back capable of producing even with the bad offensive line, like the narrative said. And they did just that. They took Cam Akers, who had a very productive college season, even though his offensive line was duty. So that was their Band-Aid was drafting Cam Akers. So I think Cam Akers is going to take it away. Henderson will probably, only thing he'll really do is just kind of limit his ceiling, not really eat into his floor necessarily. Green Bay by AJ Dillon. He's a tank. Aaron Jones will be great as the second read. By the way, I think we talked about pass catchers in here. Are there any Packers receivers draftable? Aaron Jones is the second receiver on that team. After that, if you want to take a stab at Lazard, go ahead. No one else really. A lot of people are. This made me mad. Someone was talking about Jay Sternberger versus Noah Fant in the league, like which one to draft, and I just lost all credibility for them. So we'll keep rolling. Rookie regression. Improved ones. Paris are going to improve. Haskins, Preston, Williams, Darius Slayton, David Montgomery, Damon Harris are all going to improve. Their situations got better, or they're coming off an injury, or they're Darius Slayton. Regression, negative regression. AJ Brown targets. The increase in targets will not be enough to make up for the yards per reception regression. Josh Jacobs is not an RB1. Stop drafting him in the first round. Hunter Renfrow, they drafted 3 wide receivers. So yeah, Superflex rebuild. I like to turn picks into players to take best players available. Even if you're in a rebuild, don't be afraid to take some running backs in the rookie draft, because like we talked about earlier, they do turn around very quickly and can you can trade them for great value. Good buys for a rebuild. Some guys I just mentioned before. Haskins is one. Michael Gallup, Josh Allen. These are a bunch of different prices right now. Christian Kirk, Mecole Hardman, Calvin Ridley, Mike Williams, Corey Davis, RIP. Sorry, I had to. His price is super low. Still very talented. Maybe he's going to be the next Laquan Treadwell / Josh Doxson, which are both on one of my dynasty teams. Hayden Hurst, James Washington, Tony Pollard, Antonio Gibson, J.K. Dobbins, Anthony Miller, Dallas Goedert, underlined all caps, Curtis Samuel, Jalen Reagor. Those are my goodbyes for whatever. That's everything that I have planned. Let's read real quick. I've got 3 minutes. Miami backfield also a fade. Yeah, probably. If you're going to spend one, take the cheaper one. I'll take Breida. Tight end starting in tight end Premier League. Big 4. I'm fading Waller. Totally fine taking Ertz. I like Hurst as well. Just talked about him. I'm big on Goddard as well. Oh yeah, Julio Jones and AJ Brown. If you voted for AJ Brown, you're wrong. That's what the poll is for. Connor's someone to avoid in Dynasty. He is only 25. He has had sprains, no super big injuries. They did draft McFarland. Not that McFarland is really anything to Connor. Big Ben doesn't have the arm. DJ Moore, excellent. Love DJ Moore, especially with Teddy Bridgewater. Cortland Sutton, hot take alert. I have a bet riding on this. Zach's about to rush me or wrap me up. Cortland Sutton is going to finish outside of the top 24 wide receivers. Don't mark my words, but I do have an entire dollar riding on this take. So, too many mouths to feed. Yeah, probably with Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant and Alberto and Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay and KJ Hamler. Rebuilding dynasty team. It depends on how big of a rebuilding dynasty team you are. If you can do a 1-year reload, do a 1-year reload. If it's anything more than that, go ahead and trade Travis Kelce. No. Oops. Oh no, what did I do? I pressed the wrong button. Okay. I think that's gonna be all. Oh wait. Connor worth drafting? Yes. Yeah, I would draft James Conner. I've drafted him a couple times, but yeah, if I didn't answer any of your questions, I'm sorry. You can send me a DM and I'll elaborate more. I was just trying to get all of them at least kind of answered. Yes, thank you so much, Zach, for letting me come on. I hope I talked quickly enough to get everyone, but not too quick to not be understood. For the Dynasty GM tool, I'm going to go back over these, and I think I'm going to, if this AMA channel stays open, I'll tag the winner in there for my favorite question, and then I'll get back to you guys, and I'll ping everyone for the AMA stuff for the next giveaway if that's possible. So I think that's it. I hope that was good. Thank you guys so much for coming and listening. I had a really fun time. Yeah, go Rockets, go Jordan Howard. I think that's it. Thank you, Mbappe. I think, can I get off this now? Thank you too, Tart.